So good morning, everybody. We made it. We're live. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is Fusho. It's really nice to see new faces here in the Zendo and great to see everybody out there online. It's already mid-December, quickly getting towards end of year here. So that means for us, we're preparing for our year-end retreat already. And we'll be going for the last week of the year, and that's coming up. So already behind the scenes, there's a lot of coordinating and organizing going on. A lot of teamwork happening so that we can get up as a group and be in that lovely space up at Garrison and have a quiet, peaceful container with which to practice. And so I've been thinking a lot about practice. And I think that's one of the most used words in Zen, I would say, is practice. We talk a lot about practice, and we do a lot of practicing. And we say, how is your practice? And my practice is, and we talk all about the practice. And I just wanted to talk a little bit more about a really easy way to misunderstand practice. It's something that I think is quite common, something that I felt for a long time. I know maybe it's inherent in all of us humans. I think it's definitely very American to think that practicing somehow means we're not doing it right. Or if we need to practice, then something must be wrong. Or I'm practicing because I'm not good enough at whatever it might be. So in a retreat environment, or even coming on a Sunday, we have liturgy, for example, and we have service positions, and people have an opportunity to practice those service positions. Usually all of us are here because clearly we want to be here and we care. So it can be really easy to get really caught up in doing it right, or not making mistakes and feeling bad and beating ourselves up about the mistakes. I would say that's more likely. Or, it could be a little bit easy if we're comfortable to feel like, look what I did. Look how good my practice is. What a good Buddhist I am. So, good Buddhist, bad Buddhist, right? So how are we aware even of how we are with ourselves when we're practicing, is what I'm curious about. Because we hear all the time that we're not here to gain anything or to attain anything, actually. So then why are we practicing? And what does that word really mean? We know what it means for an athlete or a musician or anybody who's working on any kind of skill. But while they're practicing and while we're practicing, if we can be in the moment and present, does that mean we're doing it right or wrong? I think as we sit, and the more we do zazen, we start to realize what's happening is actually sort of the opposite of trying to get better or trying to attain something or reach something or become some way. It's sort of the opposite. Things start to drop away, hopefully. And however we are can also be okay. I remember when I first started practicing and I was learning how to ring that big bell over there. And I went on my first retreat and it was really scary. I didn't know what I was doing. I was very terrified to make mistakes. And for some reason, I just didn't want to make a mistake, even though I had never done it before. And I thought there must be something wrong with me because I didn't get it quickly enough. And I was quite sure I was messing up everything for everybody. And I was quite sure everybody was rolling their eyes because I hadn't figured it out. And then years went by and I kept sitting and sitting and sitting. And a lot of life happened. And for whatever reason, you know, it's all relative. Whatever circumstances come up in our life, that's where we are in that moment. And when I returned to the big bell a couple years ago, I was just on the other side of breast cancer treatment, and I had gone through like a whole life-changing adventure. And I didn't care whether I could hit that bell right or not. I was so happy to be able to hit the bell. And it was like a whole different universe. And it was a delight to hit the bell. So I'm just saying that the idea of practice is something that I want to make sure we're not working too hard at or beating ourselves up about. And I was revisiting this book, Opening the Hand of Thought. And it's one of the books on our website that we recommend. And it's like a beginning Zen instruction book by Uchiyama, but it's a little sneaky because it's not just for beginners, in my humble opinion. He also wrote one of the translations of Dogen's instructions to the cook, which will be our practice study book this winter retreat. And so he does a lot of translating with Dogen, but I think this book is a nice way to really get back to just what we're doing here and why and how to sit zazen, which in turn is how do we be with ourselves on the cushion, but also in practice and also in our daily lives, of course, from the day to day. How are we with ourselves? Not just what self is coming up, but how are we with that self? Because if we're not careful, we're still trying to reach something out there. And while we're so worried about that, because we're working so hard towards it, we are missing what's happening right here. And that can happen in all different ways. Either we're striving and we're grasping to some idea of the way we're supposed to be, or we might be pushing away an idea of what we don't like about how we are, or how that person is, or that person is. So what if we can let go of those ideas, because those are ideas, and allow those to drop away a bit, and not worry about what it's going to be like when we finally get there, because we're already here. And it can be easy to get a messed up idea of success in this world. In general, the messages that we tend to get are, you're not doing it right, or you're not successful enough, or sometimes we could find ourselves saying, I'm not doing it right. I'm not holy enough yet. I'm not the good Buddhist. The bad Buddhist is here. So why am I even here practicing? But you know, that bad Buddhist is actually a good place to start, I think. And the imperfect moment that we're not happy with, that's it. This is it. This is what we got. And how can we be with that? right here on this cushion, the way that I showed up in this moment, based on everything that just happened. Can I sit okay, peacefully, calmly with that as it is happening in this moment? I hear a lot of people asking, what's the point sometimes, right? But even after sitting for a very long time, I think we hope there's a point. So Uchiyama was somebody who, he studied in Japan, but he was an abbot in Japan, but he studied over here. He studied Western philosophy. And he became a Zen priest in 1940. And then he started studying with Sawaki Roshi, Kodo Sawaki Roshi, until 1965. And then when Sawaki died, he became the abbot of a temple outside of Kyoto. And he was also an origami master, but he just was very passionate about just pure, plain sitting and just not trying to attain anything and just letting everything drop away. And he was very clear that our self, as we know it, that comes to the cushion, should aim to also be integrated with what he would call the universal self, where we can get a glimpse of the reality that is connected to everything and is not separate from anything or anybody. And that's what he felt the zazen practice was good for, and that we should just do that, basically. And he referenced Dogen quite a bit when Dogen tells us that practice is enlightenment. It already is. So the effort that we make with whatever self we bring to whatever we're doing, if we can be awake in that moment, that's it. We're here. There's nothing else to get to. He also liked to point out one of the oldest Buddhist sutras, the Sutta Ipata, tells us to depend on others is to be unstable. And the foundation of the self is only the self. He said, when you seek an object other than yourself, it can lead you to some kind of goal. If you practice a zazen in which all is the self and only the self from the start, there is no place to go. That is why it's called zazen, which amounts to nothing. Sitting where there is no place to go, or the self, which is only the self, is more important to this practice than anything else. So it sounds contradictory, but we're almost practicing letting go of everything and not trying to get anywhere. Zazen in which there's no intention to seek anything elsewhere or to gain or rid oneself of something can be referred to as unstained zazen. So he coined the phrase opening the hand of thought. It's the very act of zazen. It's the original Buddhist practice of not grasping and clinging, the practice of freedom as it occurs in this very moment in your mind. And one of the translators of the book who studied with him says he also saw that some people's psychological difficulties might be alleviated by sitting in the zazen posture to get some composure. If doctors or psychologists felt their patients had greatly benefited from the incorporation of zazen into their therapies, all the better. At the same time, he would point out to me that such uses of zazen should be understood as being examples of utilitarian Zen, Zen for the sake of bettering or improving your condition or circumstances. And he said it's fine if it's helpful. There's nothing wrong with that. But it shouldn't be the same as doing zazen without setting any objectives. And he thought they were different. He made a distinction between practicing zazen unconditionally with an attitude of letting go of all thoughts of how it could benefit me, and do it with seeing one's life from the broadest perspective, and then functioning in a way that enables that perspective to manifest most fully through one's day-to-day activities. So, of course, there's a koan we could talk about. There's a famous koan that I'm sure most of us have heard about, even if we don't study koans, and it's "Ordinary mind is the way." It's in the Mumonkan. So Joshu earnestly asked Nansen, "What is the way? How do I do this? What is Zen? How do I do this?" Nansen said, "The ordinary mind is the way." Joshu said, "Should I direct myself toward it or not?" Nansen said, "If you try to turn toward it, you go against it." Joshu said, "If I do not try to turn toward it, how can I know that it is the way?" Nansen said, "The way does not belong to knowing or not knowing. Knowing is delusion. Not knowing is a blank consciousness. When you have really reached the true way beyond all doubt, you will find it as vast and boundless as the great empty firmament. How can it be talked about on a level of right and wrong?" And Uchiyama says the reality of the impermanence that we awaken to is Satori, but some people aim at shooting down and carting home a ready-made enlightenment experience, like some kind of trophy. But that's impossible. The only true enlightenment is awareness of the vivid reality of life, moment by moment. So we practice enlightenment right now, right here, in every moment. So it doesn't make sense. We do need to practice it. And it's already here and it's already happening. And yes, you, as you are right now, are part of that. It means this messy, painful, scary, upsetting, sometimes joyful, wonderful, beautiful life is really the one that you're practicing with, and this is really it. And if you can wake up to that, that's all we need to do. There's a lot of advice about how to sit, what to do, and how to practice. And we'll be hearing more about this in instructions to the cook and the different variations that we'll be reading. Dogen gave us some instructions a long time ago to utilize 3 minds: magnanimous mind, nurturing mind, and joyful mind, as a realization. So we'll talk more, I'm sure we'll hear more about these different minds, but the magnanimous mind is so big, it can't be compared to anything. So it's the largest view that you could possibly have. It's wide open awareness that doesn't include big, small, right, wrong, happy, sad, good, bad. It's that broad. So we're encouraged to bring that mind with us to our practice. And then there's a sort of a mothering, caretaking mind we're encouraged to bring to our practice, along with whatever self we're bringing, which is whatever's happening in our life in this moment. Can we be nurturing towards that? And joyful mind, can we be grateful to have the ability to be here right now with all that we're sitting with, and still be able to practice and to awaken? This means to live aiming at and enacting the unity of the present and the eternal. So this was sort of his whole life's passion, I would say. To aim towards enacting the unity of the present, this messy self that I'm bringing to my cushion right here, right now, and the eternal. I'm checking my clock. I could go on and on, but I don't want to do that. I want to just talk a little bit about the flower class that we've been, some of us have been working on in the Path class. This is the fourth class today, our last one. So we've been studying Aabana, but we've been working with that as a way of practice. And we've been looking at how are we with ourselves as we try to make a beautiful, perfect arrangement, for example. What's more important, the arrangement or how we are with ourselves as we make it and as we offer it? Is it beautiful and perfect, but I feel that I'm not good enough and I should have done this and I should have done that and I'm not happy with it? Or is it kind of a messy, not perfect thing that doesn't fit my description of a beautiful offering, but I feel at peace with that? I feel okay. And not only that, is it really about me making that arrangement only? Did I make that arrangement? What came before this arrangement and what's coming after this arrangement? So here's a nice description of Aabana from an American person trying to comprehend the Eastern philosophy. She's a teacher who wrote this great book about it. But she says, Aabana differs from other kinds of flower arranging because other kinds of arrangements are for the beauty of the moment. Each of those arrangements is made solely for itself with no thought that the one made before it gave rise to it, nor that it will give rise to the next one. Aabana, however, is performed by a person as a ritualistic art form. It's an ongoing gift, with arrangement after arrangement being the concept of continuing life, as each arrangement gives life to the next. And I would say, how are we different than those arrangements? Even if you should only make one arrangement in your entire lifetime, you should hold the thought that untold thousands of previous arrangements have given rise to yours. And yours will likewise give rise to countless thousands after it. Your arrangement will link past centuries with centuries to come. So even if you ring one bell, or you repeat one line, one verse, one chant, can we keep in mind what has come before us, and what will come after? How will that go? Dogen's instructions include, do not discriminate between the faults or virtues of the monks or whether they are senior or junior. You do not even know where you stand. So how can you put others into categories? Judging others from within the boundaries of your own opinions, how could you be anything other than wrong? Although there are differences between seniors and juniors, all are equally members of the assembly. Those who had many faults yesterday may be correct and clear today. Who can judge sacred from common? I'm going to just end with some encouragement from Charlotte Joko Beck. Oh, and then a poem. It's in my pocket. So translated in a way we can more easily understand about ordinary mind. She says, now for most of us, when really tough stuff is hitting us, our minds can't do anything except spin. That's one reason regular practice is so important. Even if our life is uneventful and things are going pretty well, we're building muscle. We're building the ability to lift a heavy weight when we have to. Years of sitting helped us be able to watch and finally to experience the misery we might be going through. To be present and be miserable is the last thing we want to do. So our work is to really feel our misery with no thinking, as much as we can. If we can feel it without judging, it begins to heal itself. And out of that healing, a measure of understanding begins to appear about the whole situation we're in. There's a calming, an ability to do something that makes some sense. So I was thinking about myself that I was bringing to my sitting this morning. Rough and tumble New York self, post-cancer treatment PTSD self. Do I look all right, self? I still love my sweetie self, not a famous filmmaker self. Living my New York art life self. Oh, there I am.